Greetings, this is Charles Darwin once again from the bed of the Paluxy River in Texas. And 110 million years ago, this was a flat at the edge of the Gulf of Mexico. And there were dinosaurs running around in the mud, and they left their footprints. And one of the major kinds of footprints in other parts of the park, other than here, is the sauropod prints. You probably know about Brontosaurus as an example of that very large, huge plant-eating dinosaurs. But there's at least three other kinds of dinosaurs that were present, and Glen Kuban is going to explain to us a rare juxtaposition of those three different kinds all in one place here in the Paluxy River.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, here we see what's probably an Acrocanthosaurus track. That's a two-legged meat-eater, or theropod, that has three sharp toes, and it's practically overlapped here by another type of track that also has sharp toes, but it has this long extension at the back, which is its metatarsus, or sole and heel, and also shows part of the helix. And this dinosaur is apparently walking in a different fashion. Instead of walking up on its toes, like most dinosaurs, including Acrocanthosaurus, putting weight on the back part of the foot, the sole, and the heel. So I call these metatarsal tracks. And by comparing the proportion of this metatarsus to the digits compared to, say, other dinosaurs like an Acrocanthosaurus, it's now appearing that this is probably made by another type of dinosaur, possibly an ornithomimid, or ostrich dinosaur is an informal name for that group. And then if we move over just a little bit to the side here, we see yet another type, probably made by an ornithopod, or two-legged plant-eating dinosaur. There's a whole trail here. You can start with that one. You can see, especially when we wet it down, these are infill, but you can see three toes here. This is the infill material that's stuck in the toes. But unlike those tracks, the track is wider than it is long. The digits are blunter. No real long, sharp claws. And this next step is here. And then this is probably the most obvious one. You can see that the toes are well infilled, but the outline of the infilling shows you the shape. The middle toe is a little bit pointy, but shorter than a typical theropod track. The side digits are very short and blunt, and you have this more rounded heel, or back part of the foot. So it's definitely, I'm sure it's a different dinosaur than the typical three-toed tracks made by Acrocanthosaurus. And again, I believe it's made by an ornithopod, or two-legged plant eater.
So we have the theropods, the ornithomimid, and the ornithopod.
Well, yeah, theropod, ornithopod, possibly ornithomimid, and sauropod, so probably at least four types. This may be the only probable ornithopod track in the park. Many of the tracks in the past identified as ornithopod tracks may have been theropod tracks where the mud has come back over the toes. And you can tell that when you follow the trails, you may see eventually better indications of the long toes. In this case, we have about 20 tracks in a row, all with the same shape. They're all broad, all shorter digits, so it seems like this is almost certainly a different dinosaur making these tracks.
And if you just found one of the tracks, you might not be sure whether it was actually the right shape or whether it was distorted mud. But when you see a whole trackway of them, then you can replicate your findings and find a pattern and have a greater degree of reliability.
Exactly.
So you could say, in a way, that two tracks are more than twice as good as one.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, and also you can see the oxidation, which is giving it kind of a red color there,
right.
Which was noted on other videos, which may or may not yet have been posted, but you can see it very clearly.
Right, this is a clay-like material that's bluish-gray until it oxidizes or rusts, in which case it becomes harder than the limestone, and sometimes the limestone then starts eroding around the track, creating actually raised relief. And even where it hasn't become raised up, you can see the boundary of the infilling by the color and texture difference is quite clear in this case. Many times as we wet it, clean it, dry it, and so forth, it gets more and more rusty day by day until it's very dramatic.
Okay, well, now we know something about the dinosaurs that were living in the Paluxy River when it was the edge of the Gulf of Mexico 110 million years ago. Thank you to Glen Kuban, and this is Charles Darwin, Tally Ho, and Amen.